What if I told you that the only way to achieve absolute perfect world peace like true harmony is to actually make it illegal to love your own children more than a total stranger?
I mean, that just sounds, it's incredibly abrasive to our modern sensibilities, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It completely attacks the very foundation of how we organize our lives and, our loyalties.
It really does. And I want you, the listener, to just hold on to that feeling of discomfort for a second, because I want you to imagine a future where every single source of human anxiety is just, it's gone.
Completely erased.
Yeah. The worry, the physical pain, the deep-seated sorrow, the fear, entirely eliminated. And in its place, there was only this overwhelming, awe-inspiring joy.
A joy so profound it actually leaves you trembling. I think that's how it's described.
Exactly. But the price of admission to this utopia is the complete destruction of, well, everything that currently defines you. And that is the focal point of our deep dive today. We are unpacking a singular, highly fascinating, and frankly staggering source. It's a short, really sweeping manifesto titled "Humanity is Evolving According to My Vision."
Quite the title.
Yeah, it's credited to an author named Deiform Buddha, and it's dated December 27th, 2024. Translated and edited by someone named Kinyu.
And we should probably set some ground rules for this exploration immediately, right at the top.
Please do.
Because this text proposes a radical, overwhelming overhaul of human existence. It takes these elements of extreme sociology, blends them with highly advanced speculative technology, and then wraps the whole thing in concepts of spiritual ascension.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
So our goal here is not to judge the feasibility of this blueprint. We aren't endorsing it, and we certainly aren't going to waste time trying to debunk something that is so obviously speculative.
Right, this is not what we're here for.
Exactly. We are going to impartially unpack the machinery of this vision just exactly as it is presented to us. We want to understand what this author is actually proposing and, more importantly, how the internal logic of this utopia actually functions.
Right, the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
And to understand the future this manifesto promises, we really have to start by looking at what it claims must be destroyed.
The great erasure.
Yeah. The author plans to eliminate what they call the roots of human troubles. And they don't want to just trim the branches here. They're pulling up the entire tree.
Mm-hmm.
The list of human institutions they plan to abolish is just massive. I mean, they state they will abolish marriage and family entirely.
Which is huge on its own.
Right. And they'll dissolve all nations, political parties, religions, erase wealth disparities, banks, and currencies. They want to remove national borders entirely.
Yeah, and by doing this, the text promises the complete eradication of theft, robbery, invasion, war, unrest, corruption.
Fraud, deceit, bribery.
Right, poverty and hunger. It is just a breathtaking list of subtractions.
It really is.
And notice how the text directly links the existence of structural institutions to the existence of human suffering. It places a macro concept like war on the exact same causal chain as a micro concept like marriage.
Which is such a wild connection to make.
Right, but the underlying logic is that division of any kind inevitably breeds conflict.
Yeah, the analogy I thought of for this is, it's like formatting a planetary hard drive.
Oh, I like that.
Because the author isn't trying to just delete a few corrupted files, like poverty or political corruption. They want to completely wipe the entire operating system of human society.
Just a total reset.
Exactly. And install something completely alien to our current nature. Because when you remove things like family, marriage, personal wealth, you are removing the core pillars of how humans define their individual identities.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us back to the question I asked right at the top of the show. If I prioritize my family over a stranger, I am creating an us and a them.
Right.
I am creating division.
You are drawing a boundary. And in the logic of this manifesto, boundaries are the root of all evil. National borders and banks create geographical and economic boundaries.
Right.
They create an exclusionary tribe on a massive scale, which inevitably leads to war and poverty. And then marriage and the family unit create these deeply personal, interpersonal boundaries.
A microtribe.
A microtribe, exactly. The author's premise is that total unity and absolute peace require the absolute dissolution of all exclusivity. You cannot have theft if there is literally no concept of personal property.
Right, you can't steal what nobody owns.
Exactly. And you cannot have war if there is no, quote-unquote, other nation to fight. So taking it to its most extreme logical endpoint, you cannot have exclusionary tribalism if the family unit itself is dissolved into a single global collective.
So it's utopia achieved through total structural erasure, which, forces a terrifying but really fascinating question. Are the things we love most, like our spouses, our children, our homes, are they actually the very anchors holding us back from global harmony?
And the author says, yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. But, I mean, that leaves a massive vacuum. If you format the hard drive, wipe the slate completely clean of all traditional human structures.
Right, no jobs.
Yeah, no jobs as we know them, no family to raise, no nations to defend, no wealth to accumulate. What do humans actually do on a random Tuesday?
Well, the manifesto actually anticipates that exact question, and it answers it with a highly structured, mandated, earthly lifestyle. It does not leave the daily routine of utopia to the imagination.
No, it doesn't. The blueprint gets incredibly specific here. The text states that everyone will live to the exact age of 120.
No ambiguity.
None. And over the course of those 120 years, every single person will live and work in at least 40 different locations across the globe.
And those locations are purposefully engineered to be intensely varied. The author promises exposure to vastly diverse climates and geographies. So temperate zones, frigid zones, tropical zones. You'll live in regions with 4 distinct seasons, and then you'll transition to regions with only, like, extreme rainy and dry seasons.
Wow.
And the text promises that people will share their lives with various races, languages, and cultures, resulting in what it calls an intoxicatingly fulfilling daily life.
So I actually did the math on this while I was reading the source material.
Yeah.
120 years divided by 40 locations means you are packing up and moving, roughly, every 3 years.
That's a lot of moving.
Right. You spent 3 years in the frigid zone with one culture, then 3 years in a tropical zone with a completely different culture. And my immediate read on this is that it is not just an extended leisurely vacation.
No, not at all.
It feels like a highly engineered mechanism of control. Like it's a way to ensure absolutely no one ever forms the kinds of deep static roots that lead to the nations and borders the author just finished abolishing.
Yeah, that is a crucial insight. The prescribed nomadic lifestyle is literally the glue holding the previous section's abolitions together. I mean, consider how a nation, or even just a local culture, actually forms historically.
Right.
It requires a group of people to stay in one geographical location long enough to cultivate the land, build permanent structures, claim it as theirs.
And eventually defend it against outsiders.
Exactly. A hometown is a form of geographical exclusivity.
Like, this is my dirt, and you can't have it.
Yes. By keeping humanity in a state of perpetual mandated motion across shifting climates and cultures, the very concept of territory is just neutralized.
Wow.
I mean, you cannot become a fierce exclusionary nationalist if you have lived in a tropical zone for 3 years, a temperate zone for the next 3, and a frigid zone after that, cycling through dozens of communities for over a century.
It's impossible.
Right. It effectively replaces the traditional concept of patriotism with a mandatory, homogenized global citizenship. The entire globe belongs to everyone, which means no single patch of dirt belongs to you.
You know, we see a very tiny voluntary version of this today with digital nomads, like people who hop from country to country every few months with just a laptop.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah, and they often describe feeling like citizens of the world, but they also frequently talk about the deep psychological isolation of never having a true home to return to. And this manifesto takes that extreme individualism and just flips it into extreme enforced collectivism. Like, you are constantly experiencing the dopamine hit of newness, but you are structurally blocked from ever building a localized tribe.
And the psychological implications of that are profound. If you never stay anywhere longer than a few years, your relationships become entirely transient by design.
Right.
You learn to connect quickly and detach effortlessly. And this perfectly aligns with the abolition of the family unit, because deep, lifelong attachments are actually dangerous to this utopian model.
Right, threaten the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Constant motion prevents the emotional stagnation that the author believes leads to possessiveness and conflict. Okay, so we have the mechanism. 120 years of perpetual motion to keep the global hard drive running smoothly. But what happens when that biological clock runs out?
Right.
Because 120 years of infinite joy seems like a pretty abrupt deadline if the ultimate goal is paradise. You don't just put in your century of globetrotting and then retire to Florida.
Oh, you don't.
The text explicitly asks the reader, when they reach 120, will they simply die?
And the answer the text provides is a definitive no, which launches the manifesto into an entirely different genre.
It really is the most jarring pivot in the entire document.
Yeah.
Up until this point, we were reading this like sociopolitical, earthbound utopian thesis. And suddenly, at age 120, humanity splits into two distinct permanent paths. And path one is Mars.
It specifies Mars, yeah, but not in the conventional sense of, building biodomes and planting potatoes in the regolith.
All right, no farming. The text details that at age 120, a person's consciousness will be transferred onto chips. And these chips are then physically transported to Mars, where the consciousness is replicated and downloaded into robotic bodies.
It's wild.
The author frames this as a spectacular, celebratory transformation from carbon-based life forms to silicon-based beings.
And the purpose, so they can continue to relish the infinite joys of existence without biological decay.
Right, which brings us to transhumanism.
Yeah, this is where we see the intense influence of transhumanist philosophy.
For those who don't spend their weekends diving into fringe sci-fi philosophy, transhumanism is basically the idea that humans can and should use advanced technology to evolve beyond our current physical and mental limitations.
Right.
It's the belief that biology is just a starting point, like a piece of hardware that can eventually be upgraded. So uploading your mind to a computer to escape the frailties of a meat body is the ultimate transhumanist goal.
And the manifesto fully embraces that goal. But it doesn't stop there, which is what brings us to path 2.
Right, path 2.
For others reaching 120, the text states they will be guided to higher dimensions. And it provides incredibly specific, almost mythological names for these realms.
Yeah, what were they?
The 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium Celestial Islands continent, where they will live perpetually as celestial beings.
This is where my brain completely stalled.
I don't blame you.
Because transferring your mind to a robotic chassis on a Martian colony is a very specific flavor of futuristic sci-fi.
Right.
But ascending to a celestial island to live as a dimensional light being sounds like ancient esoteric mysticism. And the author just throws these two wildly different concepts into the same bucket. Like, why mix high-tech, silicon-based transhumanism with mystical, ethereal, celestial islands?
Well, this synthesis is arguably the most revealing aspect of the entire text.
Really? How so?
Because it highlights a profound modern anxiety. Today, we are culturally torn between worshiping the boundless promises of Silicon Valley technology and desperately seeking meaning in ancient, unquantifiable spirituality.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the author of this manifesto is forcefully gluing those two fractured halves of modern culture together. The text just refuses to choose between the material and the mystical.
So it's like an all-encompassing immortality package.
Exactly. It caters to both fundamental human desires for eternity. I mean, if your concept of paradise is conquering the physical universe, mastering matter, and living in an indestructible shell on another planet.
Path 1 provides a technological eternity.
Yes. And if your concept of paradise is escaping the physical universe entirely, ascending to a pure plane of existence, and becoming pure spirit.
Path 2 provides a dimensional eternity.
Exactly.
Neither path involves traditional death.
Mm-hmm.
The 120 years of globetrotting on Earth is literally just the waiting room.
It's just prep.
Right. It is the earthly crucible where humanity is homogenized and prepared for one of these two eternal tracks.
The earthly phase is merely the introductory chapter of existence.
So we've mapped out this incredibly grand, almost incomprehensible vision. We start with a completely borderless, moneyless, familyless Earth. Then we move through a mandated 120-year nomadic life. We end up with silicon bodies on Mars or ascending to Elysium Celestial Islands. But how does the author claim this will actually be enforced?
Right, the enforcement.
Because the final section of this text abandons the descriptive utopian language entirely. It takes a very sudden, very dark, authoritative turn.
The visionary tone just evaporates, replaced by an uncompromising imperative.
Yeah, the author declares unequivocally that no one can stop this plan from coming to fruition. No president, no billionaire, no philosopher, scientist, or thinker has the power to halt the realization of this blueprint. And then comes the stark ultimatum. Do not resist the tide of change, align yourself with it, or risk being eliminated by the programs of the new era.
And that specific phrase, eliminated by the programs of the new era, is heavily loaded.
Very loaded.
It introduces a deterministic threat. Determinism in this context means that the future is already written, the tracks are laid, the train is coming at full speed, and human agency is basically irrelevant to the outcome.
You are just standing on the tracks.
Exactly. You cannot stop the train. You can only choose whether to get on board or get run over.
It completely changes the entire flavor of the manifesto. Like, it's no longer a hopeful proposal. It is a threat of systemic deletion.
Right.
And to actually enter this utopia, to avoid being eliminated, there is one urgent, mandatory requirement presented to you, the reader, right now. You must take something the author calls the soul purification course.
Yes.
The text calls taking this course a once in 10,000 years opportunity, and it stresses that of all matters facing humanity, this is the most urgent.
The psychological manipulation in this closing section is masterful, honestly.
It makes me think of like a mandatory software update for your phone.
Oh, perfect analogy.
It's like Apple pushing the new iOS to your device. The new operating system is supposedly beautiful, bug-free, and perfect. But if your specific app, your soul, in this case, doesn't have the updated code to be compatible with the new planetary operating system, it doesn't get to participate.
This doesn't work.
Right, it simply gets bricked, it gets deleted. This soul purification course is the mandatory coding update you literally have to install to survive the transition.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism at play here, because the conclusion leverages two incredibly powerful psychological forces simultaneously. First, it uses extreme FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah.
It presents an unimaginably beautiful world, an opportunity to be free of all physical and mental pain, to live a vibrant life for 120 years, and to achieve literal immortality among the stars.
A pretty good pitch.
And the text frames this as a cosmic window that only opens once every 10 millennia.
Right, and no one wants to be the person who missed the boat to utopia just because they didn't take a class.
Exactly. But second, it pairs that intense desire with an unstoppable existential threat. The progress cannot be halted by any earthly power.
Right.
This forces the reader to confront a chilling reality. This paradise is not a democracy. You do not get a vote on whether the family unit is dissolved or whether national borders are erased.
It's happening regardless.
It is an absolute mandate dictated by the programs of the new era. So the only agency you are given as an individual is the binary choice to submit to this soul purification course immediately, or be wiped from the hard drive when the new system boots up.
Man. It is a stunning, wild journey of a text. To summarize the sheer distance we've covered today, we start with the absolute deletion of every familiar human structure.
Yeah.
Love, loyalty, wealth, and home are all redefined or destroyed. And that destruction makes way for a highly structured, 120-year nomadic earthly existence where you move constantly through different climates.
Intentionally preventing any deep roots from forming.
Right, to maintain global homogenization. Then, at the end of that waiting room, you face a fork in the road. You either upload your mind to a silicon chip in a robotic body on Mars, or you ascend to a higher dimensional celestial island.
Right.
And every single bit of this sweeping sci-fi spiritual epic is entirely contingent on the urgency of you taking a soul purification course right now, before the unstoppable wave of the new era washes over us all.
It is a profound, if dictatorial, synthesis of extreme sociology, transhumanist technology, and spiritual absolutism. I mean, it forces us to confront what we actually value about the human experience.
It really does. And as we wrap up this deep dive, there is a lingering thought that perfectly encapsulates the tension at the heart of this kind of utopian thinking.
Yeah.
It's something for you to mull over as you go about your day, perhaps while looking at your family or your home, or just your own reflection in the mirror.
Consider the mechanism of that fork in the road at age 120. The text promises that your consciousness will be transferred onto a chip, transported millions of miles away to Mars, and placed into a robotic body to experience infinite joy. But think about the reality of copying data. Is that actually you experiencing that joy on Mars? Or is the carbon-based you, the consciousness listening to this right now, simply deleted, gone forever, replaced by a perfect digital replica that merely thinks it's you?
Wow.
As you ponder the allure of an anxiety-free, immortal utopia, ask yourself, what good is an eternal paradise if we have to lose the very definition of who we are to enter the gates?